a decade back, Sony was pondering making Aunt May the movie, and many of us thought, can Sony come up with a worse idea than Aunt May the movie? Well, last night I saw KRaven the Hunter. So let's talk about it. While I'm talking, be sure to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know your excitement level for KRaven the Hunter. If you've seen it, what did you think about it? And what was your theater experience like? That's what I really want to know about. Now, I went into this movie not really expecting it to be particularly good because the track record of these Sony Spider-Man-less Spider-Man villain movies has not been particularly good. The trailers looked fairly generic, but I was expecting a satisfying enough revenge movie, action movie. I like this sort of thing. I kind of appreciate the fact that they sometimes have the vibe of comic book movies from 20 years ago. That's what I was going in expecting. I'll say this, I had so much more fun in the theater than I was expecting, but for all the wrong reasons. So let's get started with the review. And I'll cut right to the chase on this one. This was the laugh out loud comedy of the year. For me, this was the best it's so bad it's good film I have seen in the year 2024, at least as a theater experience. I saw it at the Austin press screening for the film. It was pretty much only press. There wasn't a ton of people in the theater, but there was quite a few critics in the room. And very, very early on, we all started laughing out loud at the movie. And it only we were only laughing more and more as the film went along. And when the credits started to roll, we all started clapping. And to be clear, if you're thinking this is just my version of the story, if you know the YouTube channel Double Toasted, they're also in Austin, so they're at all the same press screenings that I'm at. Here's how they described the press screening.
Sony has set a standard with making these bullshit movies. No. People say, you better give me some straight up 100% pure D bullshit right now. I want my money back. You know, if I go ahead and see a good movie, I'm going to tear this theater up. And tonight,
they said, we got you.
Right when it faded to black and the director's name came up, the audience said, bravo! Yes! Yes! And listen, I might be exaggerating with the standing ovation, but this got a hell of an
ovation.
Yeah, he was doing that through the whole movie. And I looked at him, and then right when I was about to tell him to shut up, Julian Himmendinger, one of the guys on the show, he was on the other end of the theater. And then I was about to say, if both y'all don't shut the fuck up, but right now I was about to say something, the whole theater was in tears laughing at this shit.
Yeah. You can hear laughter, pockets of laughter all through the theater.
I don't know if it's an effect where you actually start finding the movie funny yourself, or you just being driven crazy like they are. But I found myself like, yeah, I was going crazy too.
Yeah, at the point where they're laughing, you realize like, oh, this isn't just bad. This is ridiculous. This is laughably bad. And it's okay for me to let that out and acknowledge it for what it is.
As soon as the movie ended, we were all out in the hallway roasting the film, quoting our favorite ridiculous lines, ridiculous deliveries from the film, referencing the strangest choices made in the film. And very quickly, the language that was being used in the circle that I was in is that this is the room of comic book movies. A film that makes so many unbelievably bad choices from beginning to end, has so many just bizarre acting choices, horrible dialogue, that it's so bad it loops back around and becomes good again. If you sit and watch this movie just by yourself, if you watch it in an empty theater, you'll probably just be bored outside of when KRaven the Hunter is like slapping bear traps on people's heads. If you watch this movie with a packed audience that knows they're watching a bad movie, luckily, the Austin critics, we're a pretty rowdy, obnoxious bunch at times. We picked up on the fact that we were watching a really bad movie very early on, and so we had a blast watching the film. So watch it with your rowdiest friends, your most obnoxious friends, and you will have an incredible time at the theater. Like, the experience that this movie most reminded me of was when I watched Jason X at a dollar theater back in 2001. Jason X, the one where Jason Voorhees goes into space. It's horrible, but it's so bad. It is so fun to watch if you watch it with people that know they're watching a really bad movie. And that is what the experience of watching this movie is like if you watch it with the right people. Today's video is sponsored by Factor. Notice how the days are getting shorter, but your to-do list is getting longer? Let Factor help you use your time more efficiently. They take shopping, prepping, cooking, and cleaning off your daily list of things to do. You can stay fed and energized with America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Factor lets you do you. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Whatever you're interested in, Factor has you covered with 35 different delicious meals every week and over 60 additional convenience items. Because Factor's meals are chef prepared and dietitian approved, you're going to love not only how Factor's meals taste, but how they support your goals. And here's a big one in the month of December when you're buying gifts for all of your loved ones. Factor is cheaper than takeout or dining out. Head to factormeals.com/50SeanChandler and use code 50SeanChandler to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50SeanChandler at factormeals.com/50SeanChandler to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active. So, what makes the movie so bad? On a basic structural level, it has the level of sophistication of Ben Affleck's Daredevil. It has that version of storytelling that we were doing with comic book movies 20 years ago, where it's like you start off with an action sequence with our hero, and then you do this extended, overly long backstory about their childhood, and then you jump back into the present and do a fairly straightforward, revenge story. That's the structure. So right off the bat, it just feels like a comic book movie from a different era. And from there, the dialogue and the delivery of the dialogue is so unbelievably bad. Half of Aaron Taylor Johnson's lines are, "I'm a hunter. How did you find him? I'm a hunter. How are you going to track him down? I'm a hunter." Just that. Russell Crowe half of his lines are, "Don't be weak like your mother. Be strong like me. Don't be weak like your brother. Be strong like me." That's most of his life. He just keeps repeating this alpha male, high T, "I'm strong. I am the predator. I hunt the prey." That's all he does in the whole movie. And there's so many lines of dialogue that if you see him in the movie, they're so bad, but you can't I can't quote it to you and you would catch exactly how bad some of this stuff is. There's a line where the female lead in the movie says something along the lines of, "I don't kill people, I'm a lawyer." And you're watching it have you ever talked to a person? No human talks like that. No human says things like that. There's a point in time in the movie where she literally says, "My grandmother died shortly afterwards. I haven't seen her since." She literally says she died and I haven't seen her since she died. And that made it into the movie. Someone wrote that, they set it on set, and then they edited it, and it made it into the movie. And the whole movie is just these insane lines of dialogue. And the part that makes it so crazy that you have these horrible lines of dialogue and even worse delivery is that 2 of our 3 top actors in this have Oscars. Russell Crowe, he brings some gravitas to this terrible role with he just keeps repeating, "I am strong, be strong like me." He's Russell Crowe, so he brings gravitas to it. But our female lead, Ariana, she literally won an Oscar and then went straight to filming this movie. And she just has nothing to do here that makes any sense. And the direction, whatever it is so bad that you take an Oscar-winning actress and make her seem incompetent, which there's a skill level to that. When you take someone that has that high of a skill level to be declared the best of their thing in an entire year and make them look bad, there's a skill to that, and I don't think it's her lack of skill. It's everything around her sabotaging her. So just shockingly bad dialogue. And then it's a movie that was supposed to come out over a year ago. And then they delayed it over a year to like fix it. And so you're watching the movie that has a fairly straightforward revenge plot where this guy feels scorned, so he's out to get revenge. Very straightforward. And somehow they couldn't get the plot right. And so they keep moving things around and they reshot it. There's all this, like, the same problems that they had with Morbius and Madam Web with the insanely bad ADR, where like everything in the movie was reworked, and so you're finding ways to like shoot the back of someone's head while they're talking because they were saying something different at the time. Like the whole movie's jam-packed with that sort of stuff that like it's a revenge movie. It's this guy wants to get that guy. This guy wants to kill that guy. It's straightforward, and they still couldn't piece together a coherent narrative in the first place. And then from there, there's so many just insanely bizarre tonal shifts and wacko choices where like 80% of the movie plays it like very serious, like dead serious, like, I wish you had died, like melodramatic, screaming at Russell Crowe, the dad character, and like, you need to be strong like me. And then it cuts to, there's a thing in the movie where the Aaron Taylor Jones' brother is like a lounge singer that is lip syncing to Tony Bennett and Black Sabbath, and it'll go from something dead serious to him like at a piano playing a piano ballad lip syncing, and you're like, I can't believe this is happening because it's just the corniest, ridiculous thing you've ever seen right after this dramatic sequence. And the whole movie plays like this, where you'll have like dead serious melodrama, two actors trying to play it dead serious, and then an animal will just like a CGI animal hops out of the woods and attacks a person. It looks silly as can be. The whole movie plays like this. And it's just, the thing that's so crazy about it is that Sony keeps making the same mistake. It's not like this is the first movie. No, this is the last one. This is the sixth one. They've been doing these for 6 years. And the first Venom in 2018 had weird editing where it felt like pieces of the movie were missing. There's weird ADR to piece together the plot. It's corny. The tone hops around. But I think that one has a charm to it and works well enough. And they never figured out how to iron the kinks. They never figured out how to write a script properly. Like it just tells its story. Like all of it had to be fixed in post. With all of these movies, like they kept recruiting top tier talent. Morbius, Jared Leto, Oscar winner. Russell Crowe, Oscar winner. Ariana in this movie, Oscar winner. And then, Tom Hardy, great actor, been in a bunch of fantastic movies. Like you can go through the list of people that they've recruited for these films that are talented, that have made really good or great movies in the past. And then whatever this branch of Sony that just craps out garbage, that like it takes in Oscar winners and craps out this nonsense. How are they doing it? How do they keep doing it? How do they have such a bad system? In particular, at the same studio, Sony, what did they put out last year? Across the Spider-Verse. That was last year. They put out Across the Spider-Verse, widely regarded as one of the best movies of last year, maybe the best movie of last year, one of the best comic book movies of all time, one of the best animated movies of all time. Just like this innovative, clever script that broke new bounds in the realm of animation while telling this very Spider-Man story that was emotional. All of this stuff. Sony put that out last year. And then they went, let's put out a trinity of garbage. We've got Madam Web, epically terrible idea, executed somehow worse. And then you get the best of the bunch, Venom The Last Dance, which is still not a good movie and is like nonsense and then a fun third act. And then you get KRaven the Hunter, what should be a nice, simple, let's get on base, KRaven the Hunter, action revenge movie, and somehow they screw the whole thing up, as if they had aliens that have never spoken to a human before write the dialogue for this movie and direct the actors on how to interact with each other and deliver lines in the most insane, bizarro way fashionable. And just so many, as I'm saying this, I want to list off these things that happen in the movie, but they're kind of spoilers, where, there's something that, like I said, I don't want to spoil the great reveals in this movie. And by great reveals, I mean horrible, horrible, embarrassing moments in this movie. There's so many of them from beginning to end. So yeah, just a shockingly bad movie that should be a simple single. It's not trying, and I liked that in theory about these movies. They're not trying to compete on the same level as these big, epic $200 million films. They're like, let's do the single and doubles of comic book movies. I like that. And somehow they botched it. Revenge movie. A guy that hunts and hits people with machetes and crossbows and stuff. That's an easy movie to make. Maybe it's generic, but it's easy to make and make it like a movie that I will enjoy. It's a film that they went rated R, so you're like grabbing bear traps and slapping them on people's heads and cutting arms off and stuff. Do you know how easy it is to make a movie like that that'll put a smile on my face for the right reasons? Really, really easy. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson. I like Russell Crowe. You have those two guys running around chopping limbs off, cutting heads off. Just don't have incompetent dialogue. We got a movie that I'll be like, yeah, I mean, it's a genre film. And if you like the trailer, you'll probably like the movie. If you don't like the trailer, it's probably not for you. I like the trailer, so I like the movie. That's what this movie should have been. Easy. And then these Sony people got a hold of it, and it was so funny. Like the opening sequence to it, it's kind of like a single KRaven adventure, setting things in motion, kind of set the tone. Kind of cool, a little corny, a little cartoonish, but he's beating guys up, he's escaping. Pretty cool little sequence. And you're like, okay, that's what we're doing, a comic book B movie, fine. And then it goes into this 30-minute backstory where you're like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. Like every choice all along the way, like even little ways the brothers interact with a flick to the ear, you're like, that was hilarious because it's so weird. It's so inappropriately timed. And it just gets worse and worse. And then we do this flashback, and then we do a second intro sequence, and then the plot kicks in for the movie 40 minutes into the movie. Just baffling levels of incompetence on a story level, on writing, everything about it. It's just delightfully bad. Like I said, I'm just roasting it because it's bad. But let's be clear. I had a blast at the movies last night. That there was so much laughter in the theater, just so much joy. And then the conversation afterwards, when all of us were quoting our favorite lines to each other. My grandma died. I haven't seen her since. I don't kill people. I'm a lawyer. We just laughing and laughing at these bizarre lines. I wish you died. We're just quoting the film to each other, quoting or referencing the little bizarre choices where trying to not spoil the awfulness for you. But wow, just impressive. Don't see it by yourself. If you walk in and it's an empty theater, walk out immediately, get your ticket back. If you walk in and there's a bunch of rowdy teenagers, as a former alcoholic, I don't want to encourage drinking, but maybe if you want to have a bunch of drinks beforehand with all your friends, you will have a lot of fun watching this movie if that's the context under which you watch this film.
But man, go see this with some friends.
No, you got to see this in the theater. And get drunk too while y'all doing it.
Get drunk, go see it with some friends. Y'all gonna have a good time, boy.
Because it is a disaster. It is actively impressive how bad of a movie Sony was able to put out after delaying it a year. What was the version a year ago? What did they have a year ago that they went, we got to fix this thing? Was that the good version and they just botched it? Or is that somehow worse? I'm so curious. How is this the one? You had a year and 3 months. I was talking to one of my friends. I was in LA this past week, and I was talking to someone that One of the reasons they didn't show this movie earlier to press is because she was told the movie wasn't finished yet. The reason they were just kind of showing some of these clips and stuff, the movie wasn't finished yet. It's a movie they delayed 1.5 years, and they finished it over the weekend? What is going on? How is this a thing? Sony, the major corporate Sony, has put out fantastic Spider-Man movies. And then we get KRaven the Hunter. How does this happen? How? I want to understand. Like, I desperately want the behind the scenes, the tell all. Who is the coked out of their mind executive that was like, well, and then we'll do this. How does this happen? How do they take so much talent and do so much terrible with it? Who's the crazy person that went, these characters aren't good enough to be villains in actual Spider-Man movies, so let's give them their own movie. Let's take villains and make them anti-heroes in terrible movies. I don't get it. I don't understand, and I so desperately want to. The story of how these things came into existence, how they were greenlit, how someone thought these were a good idea, that is so much more interesting than the movies themselves. Anyway, I had a good time. Fun times. If you got a bunch of rowdy friends, you want a good time at the movies, take 10 obnoxious friends to see this movie. You'll have a good time. If you walk into an empty theater, get out of there, because it will be a nightmare. Overall, it's a D, avoids that F because the shots were in focus. On the entertainment scale, we will go with a 6.5 because I was having a blast. And see it with a rowdy group of friends, or skip it if it's just you. This is the So Bad It's Good movie of the year for me. It was a lot of fun with a rowdy group of Austin critics. That's the way to see this movie. Otherwise, wow, how on earth did they make something so bad with so many talented people? I am in awe of that.